Chapter 1455. In Asma's Lounge. Red Bean ate a meatball and said with a smile, "Asma, don't lose too badly." Asma immediately grumbled, "Don't have too little confidence in me." Red glanced at Asma and said calmly, "Don't be nervous. It's nothing strange even if you lose. After all, the opponent is the real Balrog from God's organization. No one will laugh at you." "Hey, must you guys hit me like this?" Asma was speechless. Gale hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. "Senior Asma, be careful of the opponent's illusion. Don't worry. I've already done the corresponding training under the old man's supervision." After a pause, Asma said confidently, "Therefore, I should still have a chance in this battle." Shien suddenly said, "Itachi probably won't use the take-fist sword, right?" Asma, who was full of confidence just a moment ago, instantly froze. He said worriedly, It can't be, right?" Throwing the wooden skewer in her hand into the trash basket, Red Bean chewed on the meatball and said, "Don't worry. If the opponent were to use the divine weapon in such an occasion, it would be so embarrassing." That's true." Asma wiped the sweat on his forehead. Red Bean continued, however, "The rules of the competition did not prohibit the use of divine weapons and spiritual beasts. Therefore, we can't rule out the possibility of the opponent using the take-fist sword. In short, be careful." Asma said with a bitter expression, "The old man has really given me a difficult problem." After saying that, Asma mustered his courage and came before Red. "Red, no matter what, I will try my best. If I win, will you agree to go out with me?" Hearing Asma's straightforward confession, Red Bean, Gale, Shien, Xianjian, Ibishi, and the rest all winked at him. Red glanced at Asma and nodded. "That's great." Asma clenched his fist, his face filled with ecstasy. Just then, a burst of cheers came from the stands outside. Everyone in the lounge looked towards the source of the cheers and saw that Asma's opponent, Itachi Uchiha, was already standing quietly in the middle of the field. "It's my turn." Asma did not waste any more time. His figure flashed and he entered the venue. After Asma left, Red Bean and the others quickly gathered in front of Red and teased, "Red, are you finally going to accept Asma's pursuit?" Red shook her head and said calmly, "How could he win against the Flame Demon? So this prerequisite doesn't exist." In the field. Seeing that Asma had appeared, Itachi greeted Asma, "Senior Asma." Asma looked at Itachi solemnly. "There are no seniors in today's competition. We are equal competitors." "Yes." Itachi also nodded solemnly. At this time, Hyojin on the rostrum announced, "The second match begins." Unlike the previous match, with Hyojin's announcement, the two people in the field quickly retreated, took the initiative to open a distance, and began to make hand seals, displaying dazzling ninjutsu. If the previous match was a display of physical skills, then this one was a performance of ninjutsu. There is no doubt that considering that close combat is more likely to be affected by Itachi's genjutsu, Asma's tactics are very clear, that is, using ninjutsu and Ape's wishful steel staff as the core, maintaining a medium and long distance, and then slowly looking for an opportunity to defeat the enemy. Coincidentally, this kind of medium and long distance combat is also Itachi's favorite, so the two sides showed a completely different fighting style from the first game, letting the audience see a contest between ninjutsu. In the stands, Shikamaru was surprised, "So strong." Ningxi nodded again and again. Yes, the release of no-seal ninjutsu, the mutual restraint between ninjutsu, and the judgment of timing, Asma, sensei and headmaster are top-notch, almost impeccable. In the eyes of ordinary spectators, the field is a contest of ninjutsu such as fire release, wind release, earth release, and other ninjutsu. There are gorgeous flames, crows all over the sky, and the straightforward wishful steel staff. But in the eyes of ninjas, the choice of every ninjutsu, the method of casting, the timing of casting, and so on are enough to be studied in detail. On the other side, in the stands of the Hyuga clan, Hayashi asked, Richa, not Sudo, who do you think will win this match? Sitting next to Hayashi, Richa thought for a while and replied, The current situation on the field is still balanced, but there are not many methods that Asuma can use, and Itachi Uchiha still has many trump cards, so Itachi Uchiha has a higher chance of winning. Otsutsuki Samurai said calmly. Well, I think so too. After all, Itachi Uchiha is a pupillary Kekai ninja, and he also has Manjikyu Sharingan. It is very difficult for an ordinary ninja to defeat him. Although his worldview was corrected by Hyojin, in Otsutsuki Samurai's mind, Kekai Genkai is nobler and stronger than other ninjas, and the concept that pupillary Kekai ninja is the best among all Kekai ninjas has long been deeply ingrained in his mind and cannot be changed. Yes, this time, the candidate for Rokudame-sama is likely to be Itachi Uchiha, Hayashi said while showing a look of regret. Richa comforted, Brother, there is no suitable candidate to compete for the position of Rokudame-sama, there is no other way around it. There is no doubt that Hayashi is still brooding over the fact that the Hyuga clan is unable to compete for the position of Rokudame-sama Naruto, and as Richa said, the current Hyuga clan does not have the ability to compete for the position of Rokudame-sama. The older generation of Hayashi and Richa are both older than Hyojin, they are neither suitable nor have full confidence to win the election of Rokudame-sama, and in Hyojin's generation, there is no other talent in the clan except Hyojin. As for Ningxi's generation, they are only 14 or 15 years old, and they are not capable of competing for the position of Rokudame-sama. After sighing, Hayashi said, Letting Itachi Uchiha become Rokudame-sama is Kage's idea, we have nothing to say. But Rokudame-sama, our Hyuga clan must not let him go easily. Richa, how is Ningxi? Richa also became serious. A test was done a few days ago, the concentration of Tenseigan chakra in Ningxi's body is indeed increasing, but there is no sign of Tenseigan evolution. Hayashi urged, Hurry up! It can be expected that the competition for the position of Rokudame-sama will be more intense than the current competition for the position of Rokudame-sama, because at that time, Uzumaki Naruto, as the son of 4 generations, and Uchiha Sasuke can participate. And Uzumaki Naruto, Uchiha Sasuke are now close to the 6th path level. If Ningxi can't awaken the Tenseigan as soon as possible, then the chances of winning the competition for the position of Rokudame-sama will be very low. I know. Richa is actually more anxious than Hayashi. With Hyojin's prestige growing day by day, the Hyuga clan has also become the undisputed #1 clan in the shinobi world, and the Tenseigan is recognized as the strongest pupil technique in the shinobi world. Those powerful clans that could suppress the Hyuga clan in the past, such as the Senju clan, Uchiha clan, Uzumaki clan, and so on, are now not comparable to the Hyuga clan with Hyojin as their leader. It is precisely because Hyojin won this huge reputation for the Hyuga clan with his own strength that Hayashi, Richa, and other Hyuga clansmen are both happy and anxious at the same time. Because the Hyuga clan has become the recognized #1 clan in the shinobi world, they must constantly prove themselves in order to enjoy the praise and envy of the world, and winning the position of Naruto is undoubtedly the best proof. At this time, Hayashi glanced at Tanato sitting beside him, and immediately sighed secretly, What a pity! If Tanato, who has awakened the Tenseigan, can be allowed to run for the position of Yondaime-sama, then the position of Yondaime-sama would be much more stable. However, although Tanato is a blood relative of the Hyuga clan, he is not from the Hyuga clan, after all, so he is not qualified to run for the position of Naruto. Thinking of this, Hayashi's expression suddenly changed, and he asked Tanato, Tanato, what do you think of Hinata? Tanato was slightly startled, and a puzzled look appeared on his face. What do you mean? Hayashi said with a smile, I have now regarded you as a member of our Hyuga clan. In our Hyuga clan, intermarriage is very common, so you can try to get familiar with Hinata. Tanato, who was a little surprised, pondered for a moment and then nodded. Now that he is the only one left of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, not to mention reviving the clan, even if it is purely for the sake of reproduction, finding a Hyuga clansman of the same origin and race as his wife is undoubtedly the best choice for Tanato. Seeing Tanato nodding, Hayashi was very happy, and immediately turned to Richa on the side and said, "Ningxi should also hurry up, Xianglin is a good choice, don't miss it." Richa immediately glanced at the figure standing behind Hyojin on the rostrum, and replied, "Well, I will remind Ningxi." Because Nagato accidentally awakened the cleansing eye after transplanting the Byakugan, the Hyuga clan suddenly realized that the combination of the Hyuga bloodline and the Uzumaki bloodline will have an unexpected effect, and Nagato has completely died because of the one-style reincarnation, and now there are only two Uzumaki clansmen left in the village, Naruto and Xianglin, so as a Uzumaki clansman, Xianglin, who has a pair of Rinnegan, is naturally targeted by Hayashi. Hayashi continued, even if Itachi Uchiha is elected as the 6th generation, according to the current situation, he will only be Naruto for about 10 years at most. After 10 years, the competition for the 7th generation will begin, and at that time, Ningxi will be 24 or 25 years old, which is the golden age for the competition for the 7th generation. Whether we can regain the position of Naruto or not depends on him. Richa nodded heavily. I understand, we are now the #1 family in the shinobi world, we can't afford to lose the position of Naruto twice in a row. This time, it can be said that Sage Hyojin deliberately gave up the position of Naruto, but if the Hyuga clan can't come up with a decent candidate for the 7th generation, then it will be a very serious blow to the reputation of the Hyuga clan. Just when Hayashi and Richa were planning the future of the Hyuga clan to compete for the position of Naruto, there was a new change in the field. Itachi didn't know if it was because of a moment of carelessness, but in the fierce battle, he was caught by the ape demon arm that stretched out from the golden staff in Asma's hand. Got it! Asma was overjoyed in the face of this heaven-sent opportunity. He no longer cared about the previous strategy of maintaining long-range contact, and directly rushed towards Itachi. In the stands, Zhuan Shao-chun's face lit up with joy. Good opportunity. On the side, 3 generations frowned. The surprise attack of the ape demon just now was indeed just right, but for some reason, he always faintly felt that something was wrong. Seeing 3 generations frowning, Zhuan Shao-chun said, "What's wrong? Are you worried that the ape demon caught the shadow clone?" Impossible, with the experience of the ape demon, how could it not distinguish the shadow clone? 3 generations still didn't say anything, of course. He knew that the strength of the ape demon is far beyond that of an ordinary ninja. If the shadow clone was caught by it, then it would immediately disappear. In Itachi's lounge, seeing his brother Itachi's neck being caught by the arm that stretched out from the golden staff, Sasuke was shocked and blurted out, "Brother, quickly use Susanoo." At this time, Jishui pressed one hand on Sasuke's shoulder, and Fuyue, who was next to him with his arms crossed, directly scolded, "Sasuke, don't shout." Sasuke looked nervous, but brother, Shinichi suddenly asked, "Will you fall into this kind of trap?" Sasuke quickly replied, "How could I fall into this kind of trap?" "Yes." After a pause, Shinichi said, "Even you can't fall into it. Do you think your brother will fall into it? Have you forgotten the last time you gestured to the air for a long time?" Sasuke suddenly blushed and said anxiously, "Brother Shinichi, you promised me not to mention that matter." Shinichi smiled and didn't say anything more. Instead, he stared at the field like Fuyue and Jishui, because even he, who had the Manjikyu Sharingan, couldn't see whether Itachi, who was caught by the demonic ape, was a shadow clone or not. Just when the spectators were in doubt, Asma quickly rushed in front of Itachi and attacked with the double blades of the wind chakra in his hands. Jie. But just when the shining chakra blade in Asma's hand was about to hit Itachi, who was caught by the demonic ape, suddenly turned into a large flock of flying ninja crows. This? Asma, who missed, looked at the crow feathers flying all over the sky and froze on the spot. The demonic ape, who had transformed into the golden staff, shouted, "Be careful!" However, the demonic ape's warning was still half a beat too late. Asma, who was instinctively looking for Itachi's real body, looked straight at Itachi, who was flying in the air. So, without any struggle, Asma fell into Itachi's illusion. After dispelling the illusion, Asma asked Itachi in confusion, "What was caught by the demonic ape just now was just a crow clone?" Itachi smiled and shook his head. "A crow clone can't confuse the demonic ape. What the demonic ape caught was indeed my real body." Then just now, the doubt on Asma's face became even more intense. Itachi explained, "That was my newly developed delayed crow substitute technique. After calculating the time, I first activated the substitute psychic, and then deliberately exposed a flaw to be caught by the demonic ape." Asma was speechless. "What? If I didn't fall for it, wouldn't you have worked hard for nothing? And the risk of being caught by the demonic ape is not small." Itachi smiled and said, "But senior, you fell for it." Asma sighed, "I lost. Thank you everyone for your monthly votes and gift. Thank you everyone." Chapter 1456. The reason why Asma was fooled is that he knows the gap between his strength and Itachi's, so when the slim chance of winning appeared, he couldn't hold back for a while. Itachi obviously understood Asma's mentality, so he set up this trap and won the competition without using Manjikyu pupil technique. With Asma admitting defeat on the spot, the second round of the competition is also over. After 2 rounds of competition, among the 4 Naruto candidates, Guy and Asma were eliminated one after another, leaving Kakashi and Itachi for the final battle for the 6th Naruto. Because the candidates need to rest, the final 3rd round of the competition is arranged in the afternoon. In Kakashi's lounge, a group of advisory elders, including 3 generations, are gathered together to discuss the competition in the afternoon. Zhuan Shao-chun frowned and said, "Itachi Uchiha's strength seems to be stronger than we expected before." Jiraiya gently nodded. "Yes, I didn't expect that he didn't even use the Manjikyu Sharingan's Susanoo." Asma sighed helplessly. "I'm sorry, I was careless." 3 generations shook his head. "No, you didn't lose this game because of carelessness. Itachi has obviously grasped your mentality. From the beginning, you were at a disadvantage in the game." Orochimaru, leaning against the corner with his arms crossed, said in a tone of an outsider, "In the face of an opponent like Itachi who has almost no flaws, it is difficult for those who are not as strong as him to defeat him. And one-on-one with Manjikyu Uchiha, hey, is there anything more stupid than this?" In the face of Manjikyu Uchiha, Orochimaru undoubtedly has the most right to speak. It can be said that every Uchiha who possesses the Manjikyu Sharingan has been his target, but all he got in return was humiliation. No one is a match for him, even the youngest Sasuke is no exception. 3 generations was clearly aware of this as well. He said to Asma, "It's indeed a little difficult for you to participate in the election this time." Asma was a little unwilling. "I know my chances of winning aren't high, but I didn't expect that I couldn't even exhaust a little more of his chakra." Kakashi stepped forward and patted Asma on the shoulder. "Don't mind it too much." Tsunade asked, "What should we do now?" Hearing Tsunade's question, everyone looked at Kakashi. Kakashi said solemnly, "I will try my best in the afternoon competition, but after all, the opponent is Itachi, I am not sure." Tsunade frowned. "You can now open the Gate of Wonder. Even if it's the Manjikyu Sharingan Susanoo, you can instantly break it. Coupled with the Flying Thunder God technique, your chances of winning are not small. In the face of Uchiha who possesses the Manjikyu Sharingan, the most difficult thing to deal with is the Genjutsu and the Susanoo, which has both offensive and defensive properties, and the Hashimantanku is very obvious in this regard. Once the 7th Gate of Wonder is opened, The berserk chakra in the body can greatly offset the interference of the genjutsu, and the huge destructive power after opening the Gate of Wonder is enough to destroy the defense of the Susanoo in a short time. It can be said that as long as the timing is right, it is normal for Kakashi to defeat Itachi. Kakashi shook his head. In theory, there is indeed such a chance, but with my chakra reserves, there is only one such opportunity, and it is a bit difficult for me to open the Gate of Wonder now. After opening it, my control over my body will plummet, so it is difficult to say whether I can grasp this fleeting opportunity or not. Zhuan Xiao-chun suggested, how about we use the slug to transmit chakra to Kakashi like last time? Tsunade felt a little uncomfortable. Is that okay? On the side, Orochimaru said disdainfully, if you want to compete in cheating, please calculate how many Manjikyu Sharingan Uchiha has first. As long as they are willing, they can give Itachi a full arm of Manjikyu Sharingan, plus a Magatama Rinnegan. Standing next to Orochimaru, Yakushi-do pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and added with a smile, there is also an artifact Yata no Kagami. This, Zhuan Xiao-chun's expression froze. 3 generations also shook his head. No, this time is different from the last time. Itachi was personally nominated by Kagami. Apart from defeating him in a fair and square competition, there is no other way around it. On the other side, in Itachi's lounge, Fuyue said to Itachi with a smile, you did very well just now. Sasuke also came up and said, brother, as long as you defeat Sensei Kakashi in the afternoon, you will be Naruto. Shinichi was also very excited. Yes, as long as I defeat Kakashi, I will be rich. Looking at the excited expressions of his family and clansmen, Itachi was speechless. It is not so easy to defeat Kakashi, sensei. Aren't you a little too early to be happy? Shinichi rubbed his chin. That's right, we also have to guard against them cheating. Sasuke was puzzled. Cheating? In the last Naruto election, Sasuke was still young, and his eyesight was limited, so he could not see through Tsunade's little trick of secretly transmitting chakra to Kakashi through the slug. However, Jishui, Shinichi, and the other kaleidoscopes were well aware of it. Fuyue's face darkened when he heard that. Although he won the battle with Kakashi, because of Tsunade's inconspicuous little trick, it made it very difficult for him to win, and he consumed a lot of kaleidoscope's power in vain. Jishui looked confident. This time, it won't. Shinichi and Fuyue nodded one after another. With Hyojin around, no matter how unwilling and dissatisfied Naruto's faction was, they would not dare to violate the rules set by Hyojin. Under Sasuke's puzzled gaze, Fuyue said, be careful of the 8 inner hidden gates. Your Susanoo is not the complete form. I'm afraid it will not be able to withstand the explosive power of the Gate of Wonder. Shinichi continued, your pupil technique is not a secret. They will definitely use a sealing technique to counter your Amaterasu. Jishui pondered for a moment and also said, also be careful of Kakashi-sensei's Flying Thunder God technique. Your speed is not as fast as mine. I'm afraid it will be a bit difficult for you to use the teleportation technique to counter the Flying Thunder God technique. Among all the Uchiha, only Jishui's teleportation technique could match the Flying Thunder God technique in close combat. The other kaleidoscope Uchiha could not do this. Listening to Fuyue, Shinichi, Jishui, and the others' suggestions to Itachi, Sasuke became more and more panicked, and finally couldn't help but say to Itachi, brother, why don't we use my Rinnegan? My Amaterasu can counter Kakashi-sensei's Flying Thunder God technique. Because they were blood-related brothers, in theory, if Sasuke's Rinnegan was transplanted to Itachi, even if he did not have enough time to adapt, Itachi would be able to use at least half of its power. Facing Sasuke's expectant gaze, Itachi rubbed Sasuke's head and said to the crowd, this election is a stage that Naruto-sama has specially built for us, Uchiha. I can only win the respect of Kakashi-sensei with my own ability, and only then can I maintain harmony in the village. Therefore, the process of winning the election is far more important than the result, and letting Uchiha fully integrate into the village is far more important than me taking the position of Naruto. Thank you everyone for your recommendation votes, monthly votes, and tips. Thank you. Chapter 1457. In the midst of the intense preparation, it was already afternoon. After a noon repair, the venue that was in a mess because of the 2 matches in the morning had been completely restored. The audience also arrived one after another, and the whole venue was lively again. Not long after, the final 2 candidates for the 6th generation Naruto appeared one after another. In an instant, there was a burst of cheers in the venue. Glancing around at the cheering and excited villagers of Mai, 4 generations of Kazekage asked the other Kage around him, "Who do you think will be more beneficial for us to become the 6th generation Naruto?" 3 generations Tsuchikage shook his head. "As long as that one is still there, no matter who sits in the position of Naruto, our days will not be good." 4 generations Laying said, "That's right, but if I really have to choose, I still hope that Kakashi can become the 6th generation Mai." 4 generations of Kazekage echoed, "Yes, who would like to deal with Kaleidoscope Uchiha?" 3 generations Tsuchikage sighed, "I think the possibility of Uchiha taking the position is very high, so whether we like it or not, we may have to adapt to a Kaleidoscope Uchiha Naruto." On the other side of the stands, looking at Kakashi and Itachi who have already appeared on the stage, Shikamaru said, "The 6th generation Naruto will be chosen between the headmaster and Kakashi-sensei." Sakura was a little nervous and asked Naruto, "Can Kakashi-sensei win?" Naruto scratched his head. "I don't know." Sakura pursed her lips and asked Iyu, who was next to her, "What do you think?" Iyu said indifferently, "Orochimaru Sama once told me to avoid one-on-one with Uchiha as much as possible, and Sasuke's brother is a Kaleidoscope Uchiha, so I think Sasuke's brother has a better chance of winning." Xiaoli shook her head. "Although the headmaster is very strong, Kakashi-sensei is a strong person who can open the gate of wonder. I think Kakashi-sensei has a better chance of winning." Ding Ci, who was eating chips, asked Shikamaru, "Shikamaru, what do you think?" "It's hard to say." With one hand supporting his chin, Shikamaru said, "Kakashi-sensei also had a Kaleidoscope Sharingan, and now he also has a 3 Magatama Sharingan. It's not an exaggeration to say that Kakashi-sensei is half Uchiha-sensei, and with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, which can turn the tide of a battle in an instant, and the Hashiman Tonku, which can break through the Susanoo, Kakashi-sensei's chance of winning should be," Sakura said. "It should be very big." Shikamaru shook his head. "No, it should be. Only the chance of winning?" Sakura was stunned for a moment and then asked, "Why?" Not only Sakura, but other students also looked at Shikamaru, because according to Shikamaru's previous analysis, Kakashi should have a big chance of winning. Shikamaru shrugged. "Even we know Kakashi-sensei's trump card, but can you guess the principal's trump card?" All the students shook their heads, because they recalled that most of their understanding of Itachi came from rumors, or Sasuke's bragging. Shikamaru said in a deep voice, "The principal rarely makes a move, and every time he makes a move, the strength is just right, and he will not reveal too much information about himself. For example, in the battle against Asuma-sensei in the morning, the principal won without even using the Kaleidoscope Sharingan." Sai agreed. "Well, the principal always seems to be shrouded in a sense of mystery. This feeling is like," Ningxi, who had been silent on the side, suddenly said, "like Naruto-sama." "Yes." Sai nodded and said, "That temperament is like Naruto-sama, always calm, and always has a trump card that the opponent does not know." Ningxi said plainly, "The principal is Naruto-sama's subordinate, so it is normal for him to imitate the temperament of Naruto-sama. After all, Naruto-sama is the strongest standing at the peak of the ninja world." While talking, Hyojin on the rostrum stood up and announced, "The competition begins." With Hyojin's announcement, the noisy venue quickly quieted down. Whether it was tourists from other countries, other villages, or Mai's ninjas and villagers, they all held their breath and focused on the field. Because this competition was directly related to the ownership of the 6th generation Naruto. In the field. Phew! After exhaling lightly, Kakashi said to Itachi, "In this battle, I will open the shock gate. You have to be careful." Itachi nodded. "I will do my best." As the breeze blew, a thin layer of sweat appeared on their foreheads. There was a sea of people, but the silent venue gave them a lot of pressure. Even if they were experienced ninjas, standing on such a stage, no matter how much experience they had, no matter how strong their will was, they could not be as calm as water. Swish! At this moment, Kakashi took the lead to attack. The first gate, open, open! The second gate, the third gate, the fourth gate, the fifth gate, the sixth gate, view gate open. As he flew, Kakashi did not hold back at all. In just a few short breaths of time, he had opened the open, rest, life, shang, stop, and view gates. He was like a raging torrent as he rushed towards Itachi. Itachi's pupils shrank, and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. He had guessed that Kakashi would choose the tactic of a quick battle, through the short outbreak of the 8 inner hidden gates to take the initiative in the battle, but he did not expect that Kakashi would be so decisive. Even the most basic test was omitted. However, Itachi was still Itachi. As he flew back, he opened the Manjikyu Sharingan. At the same time as the red phantom of Susanoo was projected from his body, a black flame suddenly formed, blocking the path of Kakashi's front pouncing towards him. And with the appearance of the 2 Manjikyu pupil techniques Susanoo and Amaterasu, at the same time, Kakashi's face turned cold, and he shouted without hesitation, "The 7th gate, shock gate, open!" Rumble! In an instant, after opening the 7th gate, Kakashi's body surged with a huge wave of air. And under this surging wave of air, the black flame of Amaterasu, that could burn everything, could not get close to Kakashi's body. Relying on the wave of air, Kakashi resisted the burning of the black flame of Amaterasu, and fiercely attacked Itachi, who was under the protection of Susanoo. In the stands, 3 generations Naruto stood up from his seat when he saw this, and his hands unconsciously clenched into fists. Since everyone knew that facing Manjikyu Uchiha, one-on-one was very disadvantageous, it was better to take advantage of the beginning of the battle. Both sides were in their original bodies, staring at the target, and quickly opening up the situation. This seemingly reckless tactic, in the face of the invincible Itachi, was the easiest tactic to succeed. Although it was a foreigner, it was better to ask for recommendation vote. Everyone had this, so please support it. Chapter 1458. The spectators in the stands obviously did not expect that this battle, which was about the ownership of the 6th Naruto, would enter an unprecedented climax as soon as it began. So, they all held their breaths for fear of missing this historic moment. Not to mention the ordinary spectators, even the Kage of the various villages in the stands and the group of advisory elders led by the 3 generations had a solemn look on their faces at this moment as they stared at the field. In the field, Kakashi, who was in the midst of the attack, opened all the way from the first gate, Gate of Opening, to the 7th gate, Gate of Wonder. With the surging waves of air, he forced Itachi's black flame of Amaterasu to burn everything. Finally, it converged into a storm and fiercely attacked Itachi, who was under Susanoo. Although he had already activated Susanoo, Itachi still did not dare to be careless. Seeing that Amaterasu could not stop Kakashi at all, he immediately urged Susanoo to retract his arms and firmly protected the front. Rumble! The impact was completed in an instant. Many of the spectators in the stands did not even have time to keep up with it when a huge roar exploded in the field. Even though the venue had been renovated and reinforced before the election of the 6th Naruto, even though in order to ensure the safety of the stands, the venue was surrounded by defensive barriers, even though the Earth Escape class had already begun to make hand seals in a hurry, and the earth walls were also rising from the ground, even though the spectators in the stands were already prepared to bear the impact from the moment they held their breath, even though there were already various kinds of protection. The shock wave caused by the impact still swept the entire venue in an instant. The shock wave that followed made the venue shake violently, shaking the spectators in the stands one by one. Some of them were even directly shaken out, and their heads were bleeding. "Is it an earthquake? Someone help me, I'm bleeding. Help me up, I'm spraining my waist." In an instant, the spectating area was in chaos, and it fell into chaos. The barrier class, the medical class, and even the secret surveillance class, all of them hurriedly moved. They were either reinforcing the barrier, repairing the stands, or treating the injured. They were extremely busy. On the consulting elder's stand, Zhuan Shao-chun ignored the commotion around him. He fixed his eyes on the field and asked anxiously, "Did Kakashi succeed?" What followed the impact and shock was a sky full of dust, so even if the audience looked down from above, it was difficult for them to see the situation on the field clearly. Tsunade shook her head with a solemn expression. "Itachi's chakra wave has not weakened." The three generations also frowned slightly. To them, even if they couldn't see the situation clearly, they could roughly predict the outcome based on chakra's strength. Jiraiya was shocked. How could this be? Can't he break Susanoo even after opening the Gate of Wonder? Asma, who was on the side, stared at the field that was constantly rolling with dust and said in surprise, "Could it be that Jishui lent the Yata no Kagami to Itachi?" On the other side, Naruto asked Ningxi, who had activated the white eye, "What's the result?" The other students also looked at Ningxi. Under the influence of the constantly rolling dust and violent chakra, they couldn't judge the situation in the field at all. Ningji shook his head. "Just a little bit more." In Uchiha's lounge. "That was close." Sasuke breathed a long sigh of relief. The samsara eye in his left eye socket, which was about to shrink into a ball, also stretched out. Although the smoke and dust could block the vision of ordinary people, it could not block the insight of his Magatama's reincarnation eye. Therefore, at the moment when the rumbling and shaking came, he had already confirmed that his brother Itachi had blocked the terrifying blow after Kakashi opened the Gate of Wonder. Unlike the noisy and chaotic stands after the first round of impact, the field fell into a brief calm. Hohu Kakashi, who was knocked back, was gasping for breath while staring at the looming Susanoo in the smoke in front of him. Kacha, at this moment, there was a clear breaking sound coming from the opposite side. After hearing this breaking sound, Kakashi's expression was refreshed. He knew that although his blow just now failed to completely break Itachi's Susanoo, it had caused heavy damage to Itachi's Susanoo. "If I put in a little more effort, I might be able to succeed." With a thought, Kakashi no longer hesitated and let the chakra, which had been silent for a moment, surge again. In an instant, the airwave generated by the outbreak of the 8 inner hidden gates gushed out from his body, just like the pupil technique Shinra Tensei of the Samsara Eye, dispersing the smoke and dust that covered the venue at once. Once again, the state after the opening of the Gate of Wonder erupted to the extreme, and Kakashi's eyes, which were in the midst of the airwave, became more and more serious. With his current physical state and mastery of the 8 inner hidden gates, withstanding 2 bursts of the Gate of Wonder was already his limit. So if he couldn't win with this blow, then the competition for the title of the 6th generation Naruto would be over. Therefore, this time when he exploded the state of the Gate of Wonder to the extreme, he still didn't stop, but used the huge amount of chakra after the outbreak of the Gate of Wonder to launch the Purple Thunder. Zizi, in just a few breaths of time, the surging airwaves were surrounded by a powerful purple electric current, illuminating the entire venue with a purple light and shadow. On the opposite side of Kakashi, Itachi covered his bleeding eye with one hand and supported himself on the ground with the other hand, gasping violently. There is no doubt that blocking the outbreak of Kakashi's Gate of Wonder just now was a very heavy burden for him. After all, his Susanoo was not really complete. Although he barely blocked it, the consumption of his pupil power was very serious. So much so that not only was the Susanoo covered with cracks, but even the Manjikyu Sharingan in his eye sockets began to shed tears of blood. In the stands, Asma was pleasantly surprised. There is still a chance. The faces of Tsunade, Jiraiya, and others were also filled with joy. Itachi's current state let them see a chance to win, even if Kakashi's state at the moment is not very good. Zhuan Xiaochun blurted out, "Hizen, your tactics are really right." 3 generations did not deny it, smiled and nodded gently. "I hope Kakashi can seize this opportunity." On the side, Orochimaru, who did not have much hope for Kakashi's victory, also narrowed his eyes at this moment and thought to himself, Itachi Uchiha should not only be at this level. Although he felt that Itachi Uchiha would not be defeated so easily, Orochimaru had to admit that 3 generations Naruto's tactics were right. At least on the scene, Kakashi occupied the absolute initiative, and at this moment, he could not think of any way for Itachi to turn the tide without using the sword of 10 punches. On the other side, Obsidian, who was wearing a hood and hiding in the ordinary audience, looked extremely nervous at this moment. At this time, in the competition for the throne of the 6th generation Naruto, one was his lifelong friend, and the other represented his bloodline, representing the Uchiha clan, so he was very confused. He hoped that Kakashi could replace him to fulfill his childhood dream and become the Naruto of the village. He also hoped that Itachi could represent the Uchiha clan to win the position of Naruto, so that Uchiha could truly integrate into the big family of the village, and make up for the rift between Uchiha and the village caused by the Nine Tails rebellion. And it was this extremely confused mentality that made him unable to control the fluctuations of chakra in his body for a while. The head of the perception class, Yamanaka Koichi, who was maintaining order on the opposite grandstand, suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at the crowded grandstand in astonishment. The ninja of the perception class next to him asked, "Leader, what's wrong?" Kaichi Yamanaka glanced at the opposite stands with a serious expression and said, "I just felt the chakra of Uchiha Obsidian." "What?" All the ninjas in the perception class were taken aback by Kuroto's words. One of them wondered, "Leader, are you mistaken? Naruto-sama is now in the venue, how can Uchiha Obsidian dare to come here?" "Although I don't know why that guy dares to sneak in here, I'm sure that I'm not wrong, he is in the venue." After a pause, Kaichi Yamanaka ordered, "Quick, go and inform Naruto-sama." With Kaichi Yamanaka's warning, the perception class and the Umbu class in the venue immediately became busy, but not many people in the venue noticed this. Even the advisory elders in the village were no exception, because at this moment, the competition in the venue had reached the final stage, and Kakashi, who was ready to launch the attack that would decide the fate of the 6th Naruto at any time. Boom! At this time, with a muffled sound, the ground under Kakashi's feet that had been repeatedly compacted by the earth release ninjutsu collapsed because it could not withstand the pressure of the airwave. Purple Dragon. At this moment, Kakashi, who was wrapped in air waves and purple lightning, let out a roar and launched his final attack. Just like Guy's Day Tiger, Purple Dragon was a consummate skill that Kakashi customized after he opened the Wonder Gate and launched the Purple Lightning. Because this move was wrapped in airwaves and purple lightning, it could block almost all the incoming ninjutsu in the impact, like an unstoppable dragon, so Kakashi gave it the title Purple Dragon. So strong. Ziyuan, who was in charge of maintaining the barrier, was shocked, and immediately did not dare to be careless. She also erupted all the chakra in her body and poured it into the defensive barrier. Naruto, Ningxi, Sasuke, and others in the lounge were also shocked, because at this time, Kakashi had some of the style of the Night Kai in the Fourth Shinobi World War. Boom! In an instant, in the roar of the sonic boom, Kakashi, who launched the Purple Dragon, hit Itachi's cracked Susanoo. Crack, almost at the moment of collision, Itachi's Susanoo was broken. Oh no. In Itachi's lounge, not only Sasuke but also Fuyue, Shinichi, and even Jishui, who had been calm, exclaimed. Obviously, Itachi's Susanoo, which had been damaged, could not stop Kakashi's purple dragon, and with the purple dragon almost swept the whole arena. Once the Susanoo was broken, Itachi had nowhere to hide. In the stands, Asuma, who heard the breaking sound, shouted, "Kakashi won!" And the three generations, who had always been calm, loosened his clenched fists, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. On the other side of the stands, whether it was the Obsidian who had noticed that the Umbu was searching the stands, or the Umbu who were searching the stands, they all focused their attention on the field at this moment. And just when everyone, even Kakashi, who had broken the Susanoo in the field, had thought that he was going to win, under the broken Susanoo, Itachi put his hands together and shouted, "Would release tree world descend." Walala, in an instant, under the broken Susanoo, thick trees rose from the ground, accompanied by a loud rumbling sound, suddenly filled the entire infield. Even Kakashi, who launched the purple dragon, was instantly submerged by this sea of trees. Would release? For a moment, the three generations of Tsuchikage looked surprised. This is Itachi Uchiha's trump card? Four generations of Kazekage also froze for a moment. Uchiha used would release? What is this? Four generations of Kazekage Laying said with a cold face. After so many years, there is finally Naruto who can use would release. In the grandstand of the consulting elders, looking at the lush sea of trees in front of them, the group of consulting elders were all stunned. Even Orochimaru couldn't hide the surprise on his face. In fact, it was not a secret that Balrog could use would release, and with the example of Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Obsidian, it was not surprising that Uchiha could use would release. It's just that Itachi used would release, which represents the pinnacle of the Hokage clan's power, as a trump card in the battle for the 6th Hokage's throne, which is both unexpected and extremely impactful. Would release. After murmuring, Tsunade shook her head. We lost. With the support of Kuroda, it is rare to see Uchiha, who knows how to take care of our emotions. After a pause, Orochimaru shrugged. Kuroda was not wrong, Itachi is indeed suitable for Naruto's position. Jiraiya echoed, Yes, I am convinced. After a moment of silence, three generations said, Then let's do it. Zhuan Shao-chun nodded. That's the only way. In Itachi's lounge, Jishui exclaimed, As expected of Itachi. At this moment, Jishui understood why Itachi worked so hard to practice would release. Obviously, when Hyojin chose Itachi to be the 6th generation, Itachi was already thinking about bridging the conflict between Uchiha and Naruto. And a Uchiha who relied on would release was undoubtedly the most acceptable Uchiha for Naruto. Shinichi stroked his chest. It's good that you won, it's good that you won. At first, Fuyue's face was stiff, but then he seemed to understand something and immediately smiled with relief. This kid is more suitable to be Naruto than me. The 5th generation is right. On the side, Mikoto and Quan Mei were crying tears of joy. Only Sasuke pouted. Brother is too much. Our Uchiha has so many powerful eye techniques. Why did he choose to use would release? Thank you to all the students who have given gifts these days. Thank you everyone. Thank you to all the students who have given gifts these days. Thank you everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 1459. When Kakashi was completely submerged in the ever-growing sea of trees, the result of this match was already obvious. Itachi's would release, although not as overbearing as the first one, still had the characteristics of absorbing chakra. Kakashi, who had opened the gate of wonder, could not fight for a long time. Adding on the fact that chakra was continuously absorbed by the wood release, Kakashi only lasted for less than 3 minutes before he was forced to admit defeat. Following Kakashi's surrender, the competition for the 6th generation Naruto came to an end. Kakashi, Asuma, Kai, and Itachi, these 4 Naruto candidates, after 3 battles, Itachi finally defeated all his opponents and stood out. On the stands, Shikamaru shook his head. The principal's trump card is actually wood release. What a surprise! Because the instructor Asuma also participated in the competition for the 6th generation Naruto, Shikamaru had analyzed all the candidates in private and made all kinds of deductions. But Itachi's tactic of using wood release to defeat his opponents was far beyond his expectations. Xiaoli was slightly sad. I didn't expect Kai-sensei and Kakashi-sensei to lose. Naruto was still enthusiastic. This is a ninja battle. Not bad. Ningxi, who had his hands crossed in front of his chest, nodded and said, Kai-sensei and Kakashi-sensei are excellent, but the principal is undoubtedly stronger, and only the strong can become Naruto. Naruto clenched his fist. I've decided. The group of fellow students looked over at the same time. Feeling everyone's puzzled gaze, Naruto said confidently, I want to become the 7th generation Naruto. Ningxi glanced at Naruto. Is that so? Then you are my opponent. Hearing this, Tian hurriedly went over and asked curiously, Ningxi also wants to be the 7th Naruto? Ningxi looked at Hyojin on the main stand and said with respect, Our Hyuga clan is the most powerful clan in the shinobi world, how can we miss the position of Naruto twice in a row? Hinata looked at Ningxi, then looked at Naruto. He didn't know who to support, so he was in a dilemma. Swish, just then, with a whooshing sound, a smug Sasuke appeared in the stands. Sakura walked over eagerly. Congratulations, Sasuke, Naruto said. I didn't expect brother to be so powerful here. Shikamaru also echoed, Yes, this competition is too unexpected. Sasuke glanced at everyone, suppressed his joy, put one hand on his waist, and pretended to be indifferent and said, My brother's victory is completely reasonable, there is nothing unexpected. Shikamaru, who was choked, immediately reached out and hugged Naruto and Ningxi. Oh, they have just made up their minds to compete for the 7th generation Naruto. What? Sasuke frowned slightly and looked at Naruto and Ningxi. Naruto nodded generously. I want to defeat all the competitors in this venue like my brother and become the 7th generation Naruto of the village. Ningxi did not avoid Sasuke's gaze at all. The position of the 7th generation must belong to Hyuga. Looking at Naruto and Ningxi, Sasuke raised the corner of his mouth. Humph, 2 guys who overestimate themselves. But this is also good. Without you, wouldn't it be very boring for me to become the 7th generation? In an instant, these 3 boys, who had been competing with each other since the beginning of the ninja school, began to compete again in order to compete for the position of the 7th generation Naruto. On the other side of the stands, Obsidian, whose face was hidden under the brim of his hat, slowly got up from his seat. Looking at Itachi, who had removed the wood release, and was receiving the cheers of the audience in the stands, he smiled slightly and sighed in his heart. Our Uchiha finally has someone who becomes Naruto. Immediately, he felt a sense of loneliness. Unfortunately, it's not me, at this time. Obsidian's mood was a little complicated. He was happy that the Uchiha clansman had become Naruto, but he also felt regret that he could no longer realize his childhood dream in this life. Finally, he glanced at Kakashi, who had retreated to the side of the field and was panting. He whispered, "Idiot!" Then he did not stay any longer. He walked alone through the cheering crowd in the stands and walked to the passage of the stands. Kaichi Yamanaka, who was looking for traces of Obsidian on the opposite stand, quickly noticed the lonely back of the cheering crowd walking alone to the passage of the stands. "Is it him?" After hesitating for a moment, Kaichi Yamanaka said to the walkie-talkie, "Attention all teams, the target is at the A8 entrance passage." Swish, swish, swish. After a while, several heavily armed Umbu teams rushed to the A8 entrance passage, but there was no one there. Standing in the passage, Kaichi Yamanaka was a little puzzled. Why would such a vicious guy take the risk to come and watch the election of the 6th Naruto? What does he want to do? At this time, an Umbu said, could it be that he just wants to confirm who will become the 6th? Kaichi Yamanaka shook his head. The news of the 6th will spread throughout the shinobi world in a month at most. There is no need for him to take the risk to sneak here. Forget it, let's inform Naruto-sama about this first. Yes. The Umbu nodded. The appearance of obsidian did not cause any commotion. The audience in the venue was still cheering for Itachi's victory. After a long time, the cheers gradually subsided. Winning the competition was only the first step in the election for the 6th Naruto. The next step was the vote of confidence for the Jonin. In the last election of the 5th Naruto, Uchiha failed in the vote of confidence, so as the voting began, the atmosphere in the surrounding stands became tense again. In Itachi's lounge, looking at the Jonin queuing up to vote, Mikoto looked at Fuyue with some worry and whispered, "There won't be any accidents this time, right?" "No." Fuyue answered firmly, but the tension on his face was no less than Mikoto's. Shinichi said, "Don't worry. Don't forget who nominated Itachi. The so-called vote of confidence is just a formality." Mikoto was still a little worried, but the Naruto faction, Shinichi smiled, "We are the Naruto faction. They should be called the Elder faction now." Jishue quickly said, "Don't talk nonsense." Shinichi waved his hand, I know. Not long after, the results of the vote of confidence came out. As Shinichi expected, Itachi easily passed the vote of confidence for the Jonin. On the rostrum, Hyojin took off the Naruto hat on his head and handed it to Itachi. He smiled and said, "Itachi, from this moment on, you are the 6th Naruto of the village." Itachi took the Naruto hat and said, "Senpai, I will work hard to become an excellent Naruto like you." Hyojin patted Itachi on the shoulder and said, "Go and accept everyone's congratulations and cheers. Today is your moment." Itachi said sincerely, "Thank you." Hyojin waved his hand casually, then left the rostrum with a smile. In fact, as long as Hyojin was willing, he could be Naruto for the rest of his life. But for him, the position of Naruto was not worth being obsessed with, and with his current prestige in the ninja world, whether he sat in the position of Naruto or not had no effect on him. Therefore, he gave up the position of Naruto before he was 30 years old. In addition to wanting to concentrate on research and not be distracted by worldly affairs, it was more for the good development of the village. If he kept occupying the position of Naruto, then the younger generation would never have a chance to stand out. Over time, the village would inevitably be gloomy. And if he gave up this dispensable position of Naruto and let the younger generation work hard to be Naruto, it could create a positive and competitive atmosphere in the village. Competition. Constant competition. This is what Hyojin needs, and this is what Hyojin has been doing. When Hyojin returned to Naruto's exclusive lounge, you greeted him and joked, "Did you throw away the burden?" Hyojin took off Naruto's Haori and said, "Yes, I feel relaxed." Just then, a burst of earth-shattering cheers came from outside the lounge. You activated Byakugan and looked towards the source of the sound. She saw Itachi, who took Naruto's hat from Hyojin, put on Naruto's hat in front of everyone on the rostrum. You said, "The 6th Naruto is born." Hyojin hugged you and said, "Before enjoying my retirement, I still have to do one small thing." You was a little curious, what small thing? You will know soon. Hyojin smiled slightly, then opened Yomi Birasuk, and walked in while holding Yu's hand. After crossing the space door, the two came to the power room of the air fortress. Looking at the dazzling giant Tenseigan in front of her, you became more curious. "Why did you suddenly bring me here?" Hyojin took out a red chakra pill and said, "Haven't you always been longing for the Tenseigan?" You looked curiously at the chakra pill in Hyojin's palm and asked, "What is this?" It is the chakra pill I mentioned to you before. Hyojin explained. After capturing Otsutsuki Ichi style and Otsutsuki Ichi style, how to refine the harmless chakra pill is no longer a secret for Hyojin, so he refined Urastyle's fish basket and fishing rod into a pill that can be taken directly. You was surprised and happy. Can I awaken the Tenseigan after eating it? Hyojin gently nodded. Well, not only awaken the Tenseigan, but it can also let you enter the six-path realm and obtain eternal youth. You looked incredulous. You mean it's a small thing? Hyojin smiled. Wife, you have to get used to it. This is just the beginning. There may be a lot of small things like this in the future. You swallowed the chakra pill and looked at Hyojin. Although I don't know what the future will be like, I will always be with you. I won't let you be lonely. Hyojin also looked at you and said, Thank you. The short story is over. Chapter 1460. The main text and the extras were all over, and the story of the Tenseigan finally came to an end here. When I finished writing the last chapter, I felt a little lost and a little reluctant. These 2 years of serialization was a very unforgettable experience for me. During the serialization, I learned a lot of skills and made a lot of mistakes in plot arrangement. I'm glad that I persevered, and I'm also very lucky to have everyone's company, everyone's tolerance and support. Now that I think about it, writing this Tenseigan was actually a bit of an accident. At that time, I was just bored and wanted to write a book, but then I plunged into the supernatural. In the end, after writing a few thousand words, it felt awkward no matter how I looked at it. What the hell was he writing? So I thought of writing a familiar story first to warm up, and then this Tenseigan was created. Because it was a practice, I completely let myself go when I wrote it. As soon as I started writing, I opened the Tenseigan for the protagonist, and took a big step forward. I was already troubled before it was published. Because I didn't know how to write invincible novels, there were a lot of things that people complained about in the plot arrangement. I admit my guilt. I reflect, after realizing that I'm not good at writing invincible protagonists, I began to work on the interaction between the characters. That's how the Amatsukami organization was created. Then, I continued to let myself go, while farming obsidian. In my understanding, the point of Naruto's story is not how to become stronger or what ninjutsu to learn, but the interaction between the characters. This is also the reason why most of the protagonists in Naruto are in my village. At the beginning, I designed the protagonist to be a cautious, rational and restrained character who takes the scientific research route. In order to implement the protagonist's character, I have been deliberately restraining myself during the progress of the plot, resulting in some cool points not being written, or not being written well enough. Now that I look back, it is still necessary to maintain the consistency of the protagonist's personality and behavior, but the specific handling can be more flexible. After all, acting cool was like the wind, always accompanying him was the right path. There are still many things worth summarizing and reflecting on, so I won't go into them one by one here. In short, the final conclusion is that I'm really bad. As for what to write next, I'm still thinking about it, but it should be uploaded in September, so I won't let everyone wait long. In the end, thank you everyone for your support. See you next time. Oh, intersection. Oh. Chapter 1461. Since then, a mysterious divine weapon had appeared on the divine weapon ranking, which had remained unchanged for thousands of years. And this was only the beginning of everything. The new book has been uploaded. Please support me. The new book, I Can Transform Divine Weapons, has been uploaded from the perspective of Naruto's world through the eyes of reincarnation. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.